You're listening to The Broken Meeple Show, a podcast that speaks passionately about board games for the benefit of those who play them. My name's Luke Hector, best known for the Broken Meeple YouTube channel, and I'm an everyday gamer just like you. And I'll be talking about reviews, top 10s, and just about anything that connects me to board games, as long as I have a tea or coffee in hand, that is. So grab a cup, relax, and enjoy. And remember, it's only a game. Hi everybody, Luke Hector here on April the 30th, 2023. I have literally just recorded this podcast for about 5 seconds and already the Wi-Fi signal wanted to cut out briefly, so I had to do that sentence for another time. That's the first for this podcast. But yeah, this is another episode 70. I've done this 70 times now. Not the podcast in general, I've done that long before I started doing the Broken Meeple show, but in terms of this particular podcast series, when I renamed it, we're talking 70 episodes on. So, in terms of general things, I mean, health-wise, not doing too bad. Still get a few headaches every now and again. People have asked me to sort of check in on that kind of thing, and most of the time I put it down to either being too tired, like inconsistent sleep, or staring at a PC screen all the time, which is why I now wear glasses, because anytime I have to stare at a laptop screen or preferably a TV, mobile device, it's recommended I wear glasses now to stop my eyes straining to keep focus, and that sometimes could cause me more headaches. Or it could just be too hot, and that gives me a headache, because as soon as we get into the summer, I'm going to have to try and not get too hot in that sense. I don't know what causes them, frankly. I think it's just random and it's just tied to those things, but maybe I'll get it checked. I'll try and get it checked out at some point, maybe like visit a GP or something, and just to make certain that there's nothing more sinister underlying. But yeah, they can get annoying. They don't wipe me out. It's not like getting the flu or a cold, but they're just there. They're just sort of debilitating. It's just like having somebody constantly press on your head for a while. It's kind of weird, but just been to the gym, so I've done a bit of weightlifting, and that's helped today's one anyway. But otherwise, all pretty good. In terms of the channel has been doing okay. I mean, I've had a couple of videos this week from the Alley Cat Games new lineup, which is Phantom Inc. and Rome in a Day. Not the best of views though, they're struggling to even meet 1,000, but they were quick draw reviews, and these are two games that are not going to be that popular. I mean, Rome in a Day is not even released yet. They're both coming out in the UK in the UK Games Expo, but Rome in a Day is a short little filler, and Phantom Inc. is a party game which has already been out in the States, I believe, for a year or two at least, maybe even a couple of years, something like that. And yeah, I wasn't expecting them to get exactly a ton of views. So these two are pretty light affair, but if you are going to the UK Games Expo and you are interested in these two, then please, by all means, give them a watch. The Ori Calcum giveaway, I announced the results on a video, so that doesn't really count. That was just to announce the winner. The recipient has already got their game, Mr. Craig Higginson in Wales, so I hope you're enjoying your copy, because you definitely have got it now, because I know, because I've got the delivery notification saying you have. But other than that, the top 10 nature-themed games has not done as well as I would have hoped, actually. It's only 3,000 views, and that's quite low for a top 10. A top 10 normally does at least twice that. I mean, take a look at the immersive games. The immersive games was only a week before that, and that's at 8,500. So that one's kind of peaked at 3,000. I'm not quite sure why. Whether people are getting sick and tired of nature games, or perhaps too many nature game lists have come out recently, and so people are just getting a bit tired of seeing similar stuff on there, although I would argue I've got a few different ones on there. But yeah, just for some reason, that one just isn't doing as well, which is a bit of a shame, given that they take a lot of time to do. But like I say, if you have not watched it yet, then please do. There's some very nice games on there, particularly from an aesthetics point of view, and certainly worth giving a look. But yeah, that's kind of it for content for the last couple of weeks, because this is a time of year where nothing gets released. Like, nothing gets released. It's just constant, basic stuff, and or like TCGs and that. So there hasn't really been anything new to review, which is why I've managed to now, finally, as they've just released UK stock now, get a copy of Revive. Kiender has sponsored the channel with a copy of Revive, and it's the intention for me to give a full detailed review, because I asked the Patreons whether they wanted me to do so, and they unanimously said yes. So a lot of people want me to review Revive, because to be fair, it came out around Essen time last year, and there was a lot of hype for it. There was a lot of reviewers saying that this is 9 out of 10, 10 out of 10, praise, 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 praise. Now, of course, much like with Earth, that makes me feel a bit skeptical, because when a lot of people hype it up like that, you have to kind of gauge that maybe there's some sugar coating going on. But I then reviewed Earth, and yes, that does have some problems, but I did agree that it was an excellent game. I have played Revive. A viewer showed me it at last GridCon, and I enjoyed my play of it there. It took a while, and we did get one or two rules wrong, but I did enjoy it. So I thought this game has potential. But I now need to get cracking with the solo mode. I've already got it unboxed downstairs. I'm going to do some solo modes this bank holiday weekend, and probably get it played multiplayer on Monday as well. And then over the next week, I'll play it more and more. It will be my game of focus for the next week and a bit. Get enough plays in, and then I can give a full detailed review probably the week after, or at least record it the week after. So bear with me. It's going to take a little bit of time, but you know, I will eventually get that full review done for your viewing pleasure, hopefully, or more to the point, your viewing information, because at the end of the day, I'm trying to do honest reviews that give useful info. Now, in terms of other bits with the channel, one thing I do want to mention is subscribers, 19,882. We're getting closer and closer to that 20,000 mark, although we're behind schedule as to where I thought we would be. I thought we would be a bit closer than we are now, but 118 subscribers, and we hit the big 20,000 milestone, which is going to be pretty insane. Now, people have asked if I'm going to do anything special for the 20,000 milestone, and I will. I'm not going to just let it slide, but I don't know exactly what to do. Now, I might do a couple of milestones in the 1900s in the sense, by maybe saying I'll do a tier maker live stream where I vote on my favourites of the Marvel MCU movies and stuff like that, because I know a lot of channels have done that, and I do like Marvel, so that'd be pretty sweet for me. But I'm not certain on this, okay? It's a lot of hassle, it's a lot of faff, and it's stuff to arrange and stuff to learn, but I may consider something that people have asked me to do for a long time, which is to do merchandising. And by merchandising, I mean t-shirts and that kind of thing. Because a lot of people have asked, you know, can I get a t-shirt with your logo on it and stuff like that? And I've always thought, who on earth wants to wear a t-shirt with my logo on it? Just like my random mutterings and, you know, stuff like that. But apparently some people would like it, and some other smaller channels, Board Gaming Ramblings and a few others, you know, do it as well. And it's like, all right, maybe it's about time I actually did have maybe 2 or 3 t-shirts and maybe a mug or something. You know, I mean, I find mugs more useful than t-shirts, frankly, you know, because at the end of the day, I wear the same stuff most of the time just so that I can get, you know, be comfortable. Although I did show off a few gaming t-shirts from you know, an Etsy seller. Check out my, I believe it was the last top 10 I did, the Nature one, where I've done a promo on them. But you'll find out more details when I talk about the UK Games Expo, because they'll be appearing there. But mugs for me are more useful. I mean, being able to get my coffee and tea in a, you know, a Le Creuset mug so it's nice and warm for ages is very nice. Chamomile tea, lovely. But you know, a mug does more for me, and I've got quite a fair few mugs downstairs. I got like a one with the Meadow game on it that the company gave me when I reviewed their game. I've got some glasses that I've had from beer breweries and like festivals and stuff. You know, those sort of things are more interesting to me than a t-shirt. But, you know, at the end of the day, people have asked for it. So I'm looking into it. I hear there's a couple of sites like T-Mills and stuff like that who will link to my YouTube channel and handle all the logistics, everything. All I've got to do is go on and sign up for free and design the shirts, and I take a little bit of the profit. So I mean, presumably they must take some of the profit, otherwise how on earth do they make any money? But if it is as simple as that, then it's something I could consider for the 20,000 mark to, you know, do a few t-shirts. So we could have one with the big in fact, is it on my screen at the moment? Can I show it? Yeah, we could have my big logo, the channel, the Broken Meeple, so the one with the Meeple and the broken line through it, the blue and the green. You know, we could have a shirt with just that on the front. We could have a couple of variations of my logo that I do have and have used, you know, so they could work as well. I've got one with like the Broken Meeple with words, so you could have the logo, you could have one with the words. I would quite like actually to do a shirt with my quote though that I use at the end of every video. So it could have my logo, and then underneath in font it could have "Remember, it's only a game." You know, it's a catchphrase that I tend to say at the end of every video. It's very sort of prominent to what the channel's all about. Look, I'm going to talk honestly about these games. I'm going to say highs, I'm going to say lows. You may not like my opinions on some of this stuff, but at the end of the day, remember, it's only a game. Don't get so worked up over it. And it's something that I think would suit a t-shirt. So not set in stone, but as an idea, it's something I've got in mind that I could do for the 20,000 milestone. So if that's of interest to you, then by all means let me know and tell me if that's something you would actually want, a potential t-shirt with the logo on it. And if that's the case, well, you know what to do. Share the channel, get it out there, get people to know about it, watch the videos, get new people to watch the videos, and get us up to 20,000 subscribers, and then you can have your wish. So, okay, let's move on to a game that I've played. I've talked about Snowdonia a little bit in the past, but the reason I'm going to bring it up now is because I played it again recently. A friend of mine has a copy as well with a bunch of the expansions. I think they got like a hybrid of the old and the deluxe version, because of some interesting secondhand trade they did. I've got the deluxe version downstairs. Past tense. It's technically reserved so that Hilmar from Iceland, who does the Midgard convention, is going to take it off my hands at the expo, because I wanted to find out if it was worth keeping. I kind of got suckered into buying it a couple of years ago at the Games Expo by Tony Boydell's lovely wife. I think it was her wife. I hope it was. And she made a very good sales pitch, and I thought for £70, I'd been at the whole expo and I hadn't bought a single game. There was nothing I wanted to buy, nothing new, nothing old. And I thought, if I walk away from a convention like this without actually buying anything, that's just sad. So I thought, okay, fine, I'll splash out on this deluxe set. It had a lot of content in it, and I remembered playing the game before, enjoying it, but not loving it. It was kind of 7 out of 10 at that time, maybe dropping to a 6. And I thought, maybe this deluxe version with some more modules will make it better for me. So we had the opportunity to play it yesterday, and I thought, well, I haven't really got the deluxe stuff out of that set. I've unboxed it, but that's literally it. So I thought, well, okay, let's play another game of Snowdonia, base game, no modules thrown in and that, and let me just solidify, is this a game I would actually want to keep? Or is it just one that I'll play every now and again? So Snowdonia came out in 2012, Tony Boydell, and it's essentially a kind of, I wouldn't even call it an engine building game. It's essentially a train-themed game where you're building the train track up to the top of Snowdonia. Now, I travelled there last September, so this gave me a little bit of the nostalgic feels, but then the train wasn't working that day, and frankly, I didn't go to Snowdonia so I could ride a stupid little steam train. I went there so I could walk up and down a big mountain. I'm a hiker, not a train rider. But in Snowdonia, you're basically doing a worker placement mechanic. Now, this is the old version. This doesn't have the deluxe components. So the components are a lot, well, they're not that much better, frankly. The cards are the same. The girders are the same. Most of the stuff is, the cubes are the same. The only thing that's actually different, as far as I'm aware, is the pieces, pawns, are represented by screen-printed meeples. And the weather tokens have got some screen-printed stuff on it. But that's about it. I'm not actually aware that the really nice deluxe set actually has anything fancy in it. Let's just have a look. Deluxe master set. So you get all the modules in it, but all those different trains and different locations and an autumner and stuff like that. But as far as I'm aware, I don't think it changes much else other than the fact that it gives you some game trays and you now have these meeples. So yeah, so you do have a nicer looking board. You've got the pub is actually a building on the board. You've got the screen-printed meeples, and the edge of the board has the train track around it, so you're not just building it around the side of the board. Whatever, it's pretty much just cosmetic. The game is entirely pretty much the same. But what you're doing is basically these cards are laid out around the outside of the track. They've got rubble cubes on them, and you take actions with your 2 workers. You can only at most have 3 in a round. And these action cards at the top have spaces that do you various things like lay track, collect resources, dig out, that kind of thing, collect contracts, and it's a worker placement game. So you put your workers out, and then from A to G, these cards resolve, and they go in order 1 and 2, and basically you just do whatever you need to do in order to lay some tracks and score some points at the end of the game. It's all about endgame victory points. The contracts give you a special ability that you can use as a once-off, but at the top of the card, they give you points at the end of the game for fulfilling certain conditions, and it could be a really easy one to do, it could be a really tough one to do. So that's not much else to really say about it. It's a relatively tight game. The worker placement spots are not plentiful, regardless of the player count, and you're certainly going to have to put up with the fact that this is a game about timing. A lot of the stuff that happens is paramount as to when it happens, because you may want to dig out some rubble to clear some spaces which will give you some VP. But of course, you need to excavate when that's the case. If someone goes before you and clears it off by some other means, it throws you for a loop. You might want to build a train track, but if somebody goes there and builds it first, you're kind of in trouble. But then you've also got the idea that if somebody's going to excavate up to the next station and you want to build, well, if you know they're going to excavate, you might go on the building space in order to build as soon as they've excavated. You basically have to travel around the track in sequence. So if you haven't dug as far enough to get to the station, you can't interact with that station, which is basically just pay stone and girders to put tokens down for victory points. It's pretty generic. But the real sort of crux of this is that the game has an inbuilt timer with these events, and as these events happen, the track gets built around the outside if you're going too slow. So the game goes at a pretty good pace. 2 workers, you don't have many actions in a round, so as long as you're not APing, it should be not too long for the rounds. The contract abilities are not as varied as I would like, but they're there and they're certainly useful. The main thing I like with the game is the weather effects. The fact that the rate at which you excavate and lay down tracks is dictated by a weather track in which you know the next couple of rounds, but not necessarily after that. And if it's sunny, you get to do more. If it's raining, you get to do less. And if it's foggy, you can't do anything at all. So this influences your choices each round. It's easily the best part of the game, in my opinion, the weather mechanic. And I know that this got reprinted a while later into Alibari and a cup of tea. I personally prefer Alibari as a game, but frankly, it's 95% the same game. They added a different resource and changed the setting, but other than that, it's pretty much the exact same game, so if you like one, you like the other. It's physically impossible to dislike one and not the other. But we played it, and, Snowdonia, and my views are, it's fine, but I think it's still probably a 6 out of 10 for me, because the thing with this game is that if you start off well, you'll continue to do well. There is a little bit of a case where you think, if somebody gets a really powerful turn, it's unlikely that you're going to catch them up points-wise, and we had this situation with this. The trains that you can buy a train that gives you like a special ability and some coal, which is how you reserve the 3rd worker for the round. The trains in the base set are not balanced. They're just fundamentally not. Some of those trains are not worth the cardboard they're printed on, and the one that digs excavation, that increases your work rate to excavate cubes, is broken. It's severely broken, because excavating cubes can clear off spaces for victory points. A lot of the contracts want you to get excavation cubes for victory points, again, so you're already doing that a lot better. But also, you have control over whether stations open up or not for the most part, so you've got a control aspect there. But we had a turn where one of the contracts says double your work rate after bonuses for the round. So somebody basically had the easy point of, it's sunny, we're at max rate. Okay, I'll put 2 workers on excavate, trigger this, now I take off 20 cubes, 10 per worker. Ridiculous. I mean, that's a completely broken turn. Nothing else in the game can possibly give you as much of a swing for little to no effort as that. And it wasn't that much effort. You literally just had to go, it's sunny, we've got max rate. I've got the train. Cool, I'll put 2 workers there then. Done. That's it. That's not a lot of effort. And funny enough, I called it at that point thinking, well, he's won the game then. There's no way we're going to catch up for that. And yeah, the points were like 81, 82, 84, and 134. It was a complete massacre. Now, with the modules, you can offset this by simply just putting in different train modules. So yes, I think that train is overpowered. I think the base set trains aren't very good. Replace it with a module set and give me a new set of trains. Perfect. I would perfectly be fine to say that problem can be mitigated pretty easily with the expansions. There are too many expansions. I mean, seriously, do we need 150 odd different train locations and God knows what else? I mean, they jump the shark with a lot of these. They go from storybooks, they've got Cthulhu ones, they've got the Isle of Man, they got Yeti in one of them, they've got goats in another one. It's just like, okay, you're jumping the shark a bit with this whole game here. But the game is smooth. It is elegant. How on earth did this guy get 229 points? This has to have been with... No, this can't be right. Somebody's added this up wrong. Yeah, I think somebody's added these points up on 82, 147. How do you get from 147 to 229? I feel like somebody's really done a number with the score pad. I'm looking at a score pad here where like 4 players have quoted on, and one of them should have 147, yet somehow he's got 229. I feel like somebody really, no, nobody's corrected him on his maths. Or am I just missing something here? I have no idea, but maybe it's a special set or whatever. I don't care. But the thing is, Snowdonia for me is still about a 6 out of 10 because the feeling you get playing this game to me feels a bit like Death by a Thousand Cuts. If the timing aspect can screw you over so much in this game to the point where it doesn't feel like you're doing very well, and it's not fun to be constantly prodded with sharp objects unless you're a masochist. But the idea that, all right, I wanted to do this. Oh, I won't remove enough cubes to remove a space. Oh. All right, I want to do this. Oh, the fog's coming out. Oh, right, I've got no chance. All right, I want to do this. Oh, the event just built over my space. Right. Okay, I want to get these resources. Oh, you've just taken the ones I wanted. Oh, I want to go to this space. Oh, you've just gone before me, and now that's that. There's a lot of stuff in this game that's kind of prodding you at times, and then they have the nerve to give you this space action on the end, the surveyor. Move your surveyor around the edge of the track and it will score you points. It is basically the action to do if you have nothing better to do, because it's a waste of time. It takes you a good 7-8 actions to get any reasonable amount of points from this thing, and it's just not worth it. It's a stupid action and shouldn't even be in the game, frankly. But, why not just put more spaces on the other actions so we can do the actual interesting part? But I digress. So, with this, I play it, and then you're getting prodded with these timing aspects, and the problem with these timing aspects is that you can't predict a lot of them. I mean, yeah, they're going from A to B in this particular order, but you take a space, there's no guarantee somebody else won't take the space or trigger some contract effect or do something else that will mess you over. Next round, you may want to do something. There's no telling whether the events will come out and build over the bits you wanted to, because you draw cubes out of a bag for the resource market, but also white cubes dictate the events. Well, if the white cubes come out when you don't want them to, it could screw you over, and you don't have any control over the bag. It's a complete random element. So in some of the contracts, some of the abilities are much better than others. I mean, like I say, doubling the amount you excavate in cubes, it's a lot better than simply just saying, oh, this round I can lay 1 extra track if I happen to have a bucket load of girders, which is not easy to get hold of, because getting hold of girders requires a ton of iron ore. And laying tracks, I just don't think is worth it anyway. I mean, so the contracts can be good points if you lay out tracks, but you get decent amount of points from just building on stations and excavating. So why do I really care about getting all this resources to then convert into girders, which could be used for train, but instead I'm going to spend it all on girders so that instead of building on the cards, I lay them out on the track and it scores me half the points. I just don't really see them as useful unless you're gunning for a contract that wants you to do a lot of it. But I say, I'm kind of waffling a little bit here. The game is fine. It's elegant, it's smooth. It's not a difficult one to teach, not a difficult one to learn. It's 2012. It feels like an older game, frankly, than 2012. But you know what? Simple and elegant designs are something that are definitely worth appreciating in a Euro game. Aesthetically, the deluxe version is an improvement, but it's still not the best looker in the world. I mean, I was trying to picture where this bit on Snowdonia was on the walk I was doing, and I think I've got an image of where that is, but this could just be random. I don't know whether they've painted this from the actual Snowdonia photo or something, or it was just a coincidence. It just looks like that. But there's elements of this game I do like, but I don't like the game enough to want to keep it. This is one where as soon as I finished the game, pretty much halfway through the game, I was like, yeah, you know what? If I play Snowdonia again, it's going to be one that I play with friends, and it's going to be one that they own the copy already, so I don't need to own my deluxe version. I've got to sort through all the rotten expansions to try and figure out where things go and what the standard cards are and whether the goats are needed or the Yeti or something. It's just not something I'm going to bring out. The game for me is a 6 out of 10. It's above average. It's fine. But the feeling, the journey, and we'll get onto more of that later, the journey just doesn't feel quite as interesting or fun. The payoff is meh, and the rest of the game is just do bits. The setting I couldn't care less about because you're building trains. Who cares about trains? And it's fine. It's got some good stuff in it, but not enough to make me want to keep the game. So I'm getting rid of my deluxe set. And I'm sure there's a bunch of Snowdonia fans out there who want my head because they love this game with a passion. Well, good for you. I mean, that's the way it is. Yum, yum, yum. Chamomile tea. Alright, let's go on to a few bits of news very quickly then. So, I mentioned I was talking about Revive earlier. Well, they're already putting out an expansion for it. I mean, it's barely even come into stock anywhere in the world, and already we have an expansion plan for later this year. Well, joy. Now, that's not to say it's a bad thing. I mean, I like this cover, and, you know, expansions are good, providing it's mainly more of the same stuff. You know, more of the same. Well, it's certainly giving you a lot in there. I mean, that's a lot of content in this box. Quite a lot. I mean, you've now got this new, like, card you can collect with this weird sea creature on it. You've got more tribes with unique abilities, a few more cards, new machines, slot modules and citizen cards, that kind of thing. So it does look like, for the most part, it's just giving you more of the same. Good, because that's the only thing I would want from the expansion. I mean, the game's already a 2.5 to 3 hour Euro. It's not really one that I think needs more expansions, although I like the fact that on this BGG page, it says 60 to 90 minutes. 90 to 120, whatever. This is a 2 to 3 hour game. It's not 90 minutes, unless you're playing it solo, I guess. And certainly, I don't see why this would make it any shorter. Seriously, does anybody check the stats they put on these things, honestly? Or they just take it as gospel, or just put it in, or get somebody to write it in crayon, I don't know. But you now have a new mysterious life form, Skithoth. Whatever, I can't pronounce it. The game has no theme anyway, so I don't even know why they're bothering to make it sound like it's story-based. Lives in the giant lakes that are formed by meltwater from the glaciers. By building near lakes, you gain devotion points, which lets you access the new and powerful cards. You can also use the switch action to initiate journeys, sending your citizen to get more devotion. And you have 4 tribes. One has a day and night cycle. The other one has powerful gadgets. One has huge gates that they can switch on and off. You know, that they can build. Another leeches other players. So it's certainly more... These are going to be much more interactive tribes by the looks of things. So, you know, if you're worried that it was a bit too multiplayer solitaire last time, which, to be fair, Revive is 80% multiplayer solitaire. You do interact a tiny bit on the map, but not much. It's mainly just blocking spaces. You're pretty much playing your own game. So if this forces a little bit more interaction and it's not too nasty, then it could be pretty cool. But as I said, I haven't reviewed the actual game yet, so I don't know if I care about getting an expansion for this. But if you're a fan of Revive, and there are some out there, more stuff's on the way, but, you know, is this going to be one that they, you know, put out at Essen and then don't release copies of it elsewhere for ages, in which case generating hype because of low supply? If you're going to release this expansion a porter, release it worldwide, release it properly, don't make it an Essen-only release for 6 months. It's not good. Right. Well, here's something that you also probably won't care about. Call of Duty, the board game. Call of Duty. Arcane Wonders is teaming up with Blizzard Activision in order to do a tabletop version of Call of Duty, which is interesting because I'm assuming it's going to be against AI, or is it going to be against other people? I mean, no, it's only a 2-player game. Oh, right, so this is going to be a massive game with miniatures and stuff, I suspect, that's going to have just 2 players, so one against the other. I mean, Call of Duty is a fun enough PC game. I personally prefer the Battlefields, although to be fair, the Battlefields have been run into the ground now thanks to DICE and EA's stupid practices and getting rid of their talent. And even the older Battlefield games, as much as I do play Battlefield 4 online, is ripe with either, you know, empty servers and hackers and cheaters aplenty. So it's a dying trade, frankly. Call of Duty, again, hackers and cheaters quite plentiful online, but also I kind of prefer the whole conquest objective style of Battlefield with teams and vehicles and stuff than I do the just run and gun and twitch shooter who's got the best kill death ratio, as if anybody gives a monkeys. It's, you know, I hate these people online. You know, I'm in Battlefield trying to take flags. I'm trying to get bombs to locations. I am protecting others, repairing others, resupplying and reviving. I don't give a monkeys if I have a kill death ratio of 1 to 10, 10 to 1, 50 to 2 deaths. Who cares? It's a computer game. Nobody gives a monkeys if you're good at a computer game. Get a life. But I'm going off on a tangent there. But yeah, Call of Duty, the board game, I'm not exactly holding my breath for this. I mean, Arcane Wonders does some good stuff. There's a good thing. I mean, if this was Cool Mini or not, I'd roll my eyes and just completely gloss over it because I would just imagine it's just going to be loads of miniatures, too expensive, and not designed that well. But Arcane Wonders could do some fun stuff here, or at least try something a bit different. What worries me is that this has got Blizzard Activision's name on it, and that means an IP, which means you've got to pay lots of money to the IP, which means this is going to be expensive, and I think it's coming to Kickstarter eventually, so I'm pretty certain it will be a Kickstarter, and if that's the case, you know this is going to cost a fortune, because Arcane Wonders don't do very cheap Kickstarters, and Activision and Blizzard are going to want a ton of money, because they are just going to mince the publisher for money for the IP, and that means it's going to cost a lot for what you get. And hopefully Activision don't join in the game design, because frankly, does anybody think that most of the stuff, I mean, forgetting Call of Duty, Blizzard Activision is not exactly in people's popular books right now, is it? The games they make are usually garbage. Every time they try to remake something from the past, like Warcraft or Diablo and that, they basically microtransaction it up to hell and back and just take advantage of people's nostalgia. They've just made some stupid decisions with their practices. They got screwed over before. Remember the whole controversy with Blizzard and the Bill Cosby room and the lawsuit they got? Yeah, suffice to say, people really shouldn't be giving Blizzard and Activision much money right now. But there are still people out there who will spend £50,000 on a gun skin for their games. I mean, there are some crazy people out there with more money than common sense and intelligence. But Call of Duty, I'm not exactly holding my breath for this. If you're a fan of Call of Duty, this might be something you want to look out for. I have a bit more hope because Arcane Wonders are the publisher and not others that I think would just boost it with too many miniatures and that. But again, this isn't really something I'm looking forward to, particularly as it's only a 2-player game. But we'll see. I'll be happy to be proved wrong. Went on a bit of a tangent there with some rants, but hey, that's how I roll. Right, okay, well, here's something a bit more pleasant. Okay, so Garphil Games did a big announcement recently where they are doing, some reduxes and collector's editions of certain older games, particularly from their North Sea lineup. So the main one that's got people interested is a redux version of Shipwrights in the North Sea. This is the one I have not played. Well, actually, no, tell a lie, I haven't played Explorers yet, more on that in a minute. But Shipwrights, I have barely any knowledge of. I have no idea if it's any good. This was the first one they ever did. Raiders was second. I didn't realize. I thought Raiders was first. But no, Shipwrights was first. Not that popular with people. I mean, it's got a few people who like the game, but for the most part, it was forgotten, not that great, has some problems. Well, a Redux version with the up-to-date artwork and some mechanical changes means that this could be an interesting game, and I would certainly like to try it in its Redux form. I don't think I want to play the game in its old form and then risk getting bad blood for what this one could change it like. I would just like to play this version. So that would be pretty cool, and I think it's a good idea to go revisit old games that didn't do well. I mean, if you're going to do something, if you've got no innovation for a brand new game, then try and fix an old game that didn't do too well. I'd say that's a pretty good idea for most publishers, really. Suffice to say, there's a big catalogue of games that could really benefit from a bit of a revision. But they're also doing Explorers of the North Sea Collector's Box. Now, I don't have a picture for this one, so I'm just showing the normal one on the screen. But they're basically going to do a Collector's Box for Explorers of the North Sea that will hold the one expansion in it. Now, this has me puzzled a little bit because Explorers of the North Sea only has one expansion. And I have Explorers of the North Sea with the expansion, and it all fits in one box pretty easily without that much problematic setup. This doesn't feel to me like a game that needs a collector's box. Raiders had 2 expansions. Architects has 2 expansions. Viscounts now has 2 expansions effectively. I mean, it was one actually no. Well, technically one expansion, yeah, because those 2 mini expansions were basically combined into one. There was no point to package them separately. That was a dumb move. But and Paladins has 1 expansion. So yeah, I guess they didn't necessarily need collector's boxes, but then they have a lot more. They have a lot more pieces, so storage is a problem with them. But I just don't see Explorers of the North Sea needing a storage box. And I haven't even played Explorers yet. I've got it. I've got Rocks of Ruin in it. I've read the rules. I can just never be bothered to take it to a night and play it because there's just something about the game as I read the rules that just makes it sound like this game's going to be pretty dull, pretty boring. You know, a very mediocre, meh, pick up and deliver game. And I just don't know if I want to waste my time with it. I think at some point I will play it to see if it's a keeper, because I've gone to the effort of getting the expansion and that so I could give my thoughts on the game, so I'd be letting people down if I didn't play it and give my thoughts on it in a podcast episode. I just need to get the motivation and the willpower to do it, you know, especially when I've got to be the one to teach it, but at some point I will. I will get this played and give my thoughts on Explorers, but yeah, just something about it just isn't drawing me to it. So why do we need a collector's box? I don't know. But, you know, I like the sound of the shipwrights, the shipwright scene. I think that would be pretty cool. I would like to try the Redux version of that. Alright, okie dokie. So, let's move on to the topic of the day. Now, the topic of the day is literally still ongoing on Slack right now, which is quite amusing, because... Quick dram of tea first. In fact, I'm going to take another swig. Yum, yum, yum. Because, this probably, hopefully won't be too long, the topic, but I say this all the time. The conversation literally has been started by a friend of mine, and I'm not going to say names, because they don't want to be named and, like, on stuff on TV, on the channel and stuff, but suffice to say, I might have to owe him a stout or something for basically giving me the idea of this podcast, because I was running out of ideas. But we came up with a topic on the Slack channel for Paul Grogan's gaming rules site, and just as a quote here, I'm not going to say names, but I'll just quote the question here. This has been on my mind. I was considering how much value I place on what some call jaggedness in game design. That is the ability to make regular decisions that drive you towards a cool payoff or cause you to disastrously fail, even where it introduces some fiddliness, imbalance within reason, or difficulty into the design to accomplish it. The alternative are very smooth, homogeneous, a few points here, a few points there designs, which while very chill and totally worthwhile, don't hold my attention as they once did. Interesting. So I had to get a few games in context there, and this discussion is still going on Slack at the moment, so I'm part of it on there. But it's an interesting idea, because those types of games are very different. And there are definitely some examples of games that we've mentioned down here that can work. I mean, my original thing was saying something like Kanban. Kanban behind me there would be something where you have to gather a lot of parts and it eventually has a big payoff. Whereas something like Earth, that I taught them recently, and he likes the game, is more on the homogeneous side. You do a bit here, you do a bit there, everything gets you a few points from bits and bobs, but you don't really know what the payoff is until the very end, and even then it's basically to add up to a bucket load of points. So he's kind of incenting that, he's more into the idea of the big payoffs. Now, games that he's mentioned that, work for him, like Feudum. Feudum is a game we both like. Now, I like it for the guilds, he likes it for the big payoff, but then he's also mentioned, and we do differ on opinions on a few games here, like for example, he really likes Lorenzo in Magnifico, and what was the other one? And Imperial Steam. They are both games that I wish would burn in hell. But the idea is that, trying to find the quote, can't find it. You have to really think about your choices, as they can really pay off or crash horribly. Unless you're playing Imperial Steam, in which case you make a wrong choice at the start, and you crash and derail, and then you never get back on the track. So, and that's Food Chain Magnate as well, as another example of this. But this will be interesting, because I thought about, well, okay, where do I stand on this? And for me, the payoff in the game isn't the interesting part for a game for me. Some people are all about that payoff. Do I win? Do I lose? Did I get a really cool idea that worked? I don't care if I win or lose. I mean, I try to win. Obviously, I'm playing to win. And if I win, great. But if I lose, I don't care, as long as the journey was fun. And there's the whole phrase of life is a journey, not a destination. Some of that is true and some of that is not when it comes to real life. But when it comes to a board game, I think pretty much all the time, 99% of the time for me, it will be the journey, not the destination. The destination is, did the payoff work? Did I win the game on victory points? Whatever. Who cares? Did I win Ark Nova the other day by 30 points? Did I barely win it by 1? A win is a win, and at the end of the day, I enjoy the journey of Ark Nova to get to that point, so I'm happy. Pursuit of Happiness. You don't care about the payoff at the end of Pursuit of Happiness. It's the journey of building up your life with those cards and having fun with the banter in that. Frostpunk. The payoff, yeah, did you succeed in a co-op game? And I suppose the payoff is a little bit more interesting in a co-op game, so maybe, when we're talking from this perspective, co-op games are more about the payoff. But the journey, bantering with your friends, talking, discussion, Spirit Island, Sentinels of the Multiverse, Frostpunk, stuff like that, where you're making the choices and you watch the story unfold, particularly in Frostpunk. You're playing it for the story. You're not playing it to see whether you won or lost at the end of the day. You love the journey to get there. And so something like Earth appeals to me more than something like, Barrage or Lorenzo and that, because they care more about the payoff, whereas I'm more interested in the bits I'm doing in Earth. I don't care if I win by 250 points, 300 points. Other day, I got 309 points in Earth. I had a killing with Compost and a card that scored me for Compost again. I had like 79 points for terrain cards, inclusive of that. I got 309 points. I am never going to break 300 again, I don't think, for a long while. I was very proud of that. But still, I didn't care that much. Well, okay, all right, I cared a little bit more because it was my top score, but I digress. Let's say I got 271 points and I won by 30 points. Whatever, I don't care. In Earth, I enjoy it because of the little decisions I'm making. Like, I get to trigger all these abilities, and I get to do this action, and I have not that much downtime. And I'm thinking, I quite like this card, I like this card, but I could compost that one. Maybe I should play this one. That's the bit I'm enjoying, not the payoff at the end. Now, the problem with these games that are all about payoffs is that, for example, my friend mentioned things like Imperial Steam, and others have mentioned things like Food Chain Magnate, for example. Snowdonia, in fact. We played it the other day, and I thought, well, okay, where does Snowdonia sit with you? Because to me, that feels more like a payoff game as opposed to the homogenous type game. And like I say, Snowdonia is barely a 6 out of 10 for me, but he likes it a lot more. Again, probably the reasoning, that similar reasoning. But games like Food Chain Magnate, I cannot stand and want to see burned, from existence, because Food Chain Magnate, for example, you play that game for 4 hours, and if you don't have, if you don't start off well with Food Chain Magnate, you basically have to sit there for 4 hours just going through the motions with nothing to show for it, and that's it. I mean, the payoff is horrible in this game. Well, it depends. If you start off well in the first couple of turns, then you actually have a game to play, and so you might enjoy the journey, but at the end of the day, you're basically saying, right, did my early game go well? In which case, I get a giant payoff for it. Or did it not go well? Well, then it went catastrophically bad. But then for me, the journey sucks in this game. Because in Food Chain Magnate, I'm like, right, well, I started off bad because I did the two things, I didn't do the exact order of play that you're supposed to do in this wretched piece of crud game. And so that means the rest of my game is ended. Like, I've got no chance to win, I'm just going through the motions, and I'm frustrated beyond belief. So the journey sucks in this, which is why I don't like this game, because I've got nothing during the game to enjoy. This game is bad. I hate it. Burn. Burn in hell, please. Get off the screen. Get off the screen now. Give me something else. Give me something nice. Quick. No, not. No, not Call of Duty game. Give me something nice. Sentinels. I need to calm myself with some Sentinels. Sentinels, save me. Save me. Give me something to look at. That's nice. There you go. That's better. Right, but, well, Sentinels, another thing. The payoff. Did you beat the villain? Well, yeah. But did you have fun with the heroes, doing all the different banter and comboing off these abilities? That's the bit I'm liking. Feudum's an interesting example, actually, because in Feudum, we both like that game. But I think we like that game for different reasons, because we both like the whole way it interacts and the guilds and stuff like that. It's a sandbox game for me, which is what I like. But I think he likes it because of the payoff of, you have to do all this stuff and then eventually it comes together at the end. I'm playing it more because of the interaction of the guilds and the choices I'm making as the journey goes on. So we both like it, but for different ideas. Now, I don't think there's anything else in this chat that mentioned, well, Barrage was the other one. And again, Barrage, Burn in Hell. But that one's not it. I mean, that one, again, the journey sucks because as soon as you're constantly being screwed over in Barrage. There's nothing fun about constantly being kicked. The way I described it was basically that it's the equivalent of, going to, you're on a train, which is already bad enough for me or something, and I'm getting a train from Portsmouth to Birmingham, and on that train journey, someone every mile is kicking me in the nuts. That's playing barrage. Okay, you're getting kicked in the nuts every mile, and your final destination at the end of the day is Birmingham. So all in all, you're still in a bad place. Now, the payoff, let's say the first time I played Barrage, I won. I don't know how I won. I barely won by a point, and I think it was because I was playing the German faction, and if you build off the German board, they've got lots of VP tick incomes, and I think I just focused on that, because let's face it, doing anything on this board was a waste of space, because as soon as you build anywhere, somebody else comes by and goes, well, I'll steal it from you, ain't this fun? No, it's not! Oh, I hate this game. Sorry if I blew out the mic there for a second, but the thing with this is that I just built off the VP income of my board, and somehow that tick over beat people actually playing a game for electricity generation. How that happened, I have no idea. But, so I won the game at the end. So did that make the game experience better? No! I don't care that I won the game. The journey still sucked. I don't care if, that metaphor I used a minute ago with the whole going to Birmingham and being kicked in the nuts all the time, right? I don't care if at the end of this journey, I'm then rewarded with a big gallon of Cornish vanilla ice cream. Okay, I love ice cream. I love Cornish ice cream. Brilliant. That's nice to get at the end. But at the end of the day, I'm still in Birmingham with crushed nuts. That doesn't mean that the journey was any better. Just because I've now got a bowl of ice cream doesn't justify the horrible journey it took to get there. But if the payoff is maybe a little anticlimactic, or, there wasn't a big ice cream at the end of the day. Oh well, whatever. I still had fun getting here. That's the difference maybe with, say, going on the cruise ship. So, for example, I've been on the cruise recently, and, we went to, was it Munich? No, it wasn't Munich. It wasn't Berlin. I've forgotten the name of the German city I went to on my cruise. And this is a slight problem because... Oh, was it Hamburg? Yeah, I think it was Hamburg. And why did I forget it? Well, because, honestly, I found Hamburg to be a bit of a boring city. It was a Sunday, nothing was open, and there was just not really much to do. I went on a cycle ride round it, but the weather wasn't great. The cycle ride was good, to cycle from the cruise port underneath that tunnel that goes from the port into the sort of city centre-ish area of Hamburg that was built in the war or something. I forgot the history lesson I was being given, but that tunnel was pretty cool. And cycling around Hamburg, there's a nice lake and it was all nice, but for the most part I was kind of bored with Hamburg. It just wasn't really a city that looked to me like a party city or place to be, not compared to somewhere like Bruges, for example. But the cruise ship is great. It's lovely. I can go to saunas, I can drink cocktails and stuff, and have lovely meals, go for shows. I love cruises. Now, this is the example of where the payoff isn't as great. I sit on a cruise ship for 2 days. I'm enjoying myself, having the drink, shows, going for swims and all that lot, going to the gym and that. And I'm like, yeah, I'm having a good time on this cruise ship. Oh, we finally got to Hamburg, and it's not as great as I would have hoped. Oh, that's a bit of a shame. But I still had a good 2 days getting there. Yes, the payoff wasn't perfect. I lost the game. I came second. Didn't win. But if I enjoyed the game, who cares? Pursuit of happiness. I'm going to try and win, you overtook me and you beat me by 2 points. Oh well, look at this family I built up here and all these weirds, and I built a bonsai tree and stuff like that. That's the kind of thing that, makes me enjoy the game. So, I'm curious where people sit. Do you prefer the big payoff at the end? You're not too fussed about the build-up it's going to take to get there, whether it could crash and burn horrendously if you make bad moves or the such and such? Or are you more like me, where you like those homogenous games where, you do a bit, you do lots of cool decisions and that, and if you do well with those decisions, you will win, but it's not quite the same as building up. It couldn't go as disastrously wrong as something in those other games. I'd like to know where your stances are, but, that's kind of the way I feel. Let's look at a bit more of my collection to kind of grasp if this is still the case. I suppose there are exceptions. The Civilization games feel like more of a payoffs type thing, A New Dawn in the Fantasy Flight 2010 one. So there are exceptions to the rule. I've already mentioned co-ops, but saying that, a lot of these games I haven't played in a while. Civilization, Forbidden Stars, stuff like that, has generally been ones that require an effort, a payoff, and I haven't taken them off the shelf in a while. But then, something like Caverna. Caverna is a great example over there. So, with Agricola, it feels more like the payoff tile game, whereas Caverna feels more like the homogenous one. You do a bit here and there. You grab a vegetable, it's worth a point. You grab a dog, it's worth a point. You grab a piggy, it's worth a point. Point salads are good fun for that regard. Fields of Isle, perfect example. Everything you do in there is getting you points in some regard. But do you win the game at the end of Caverna or Fields of Isle? Whatever. I had fun building up my farm, my area, my stuff. I've got all the pigs, I've got all the sheep, I've got all the tools and Fields of Isle and that. That's the bit that I'm enjoying and having fun with, which is possibly why I prefer those to Agricola, for example. Campaign games? I suppose campaign games... Well, no, campaign games are about the journey. I mean, yeah, the payoff is maybe a little bit more important in there, because if you get to the end and... I mean, Lords of the Rings Journeys to Middle-earth suffers from this. The payoffs in Lord of the Rings Journeys to Middle-earth suck. They're not good payoffs. The finales are too hard, too difficult, too swingy, and it's not like the story is fantastic in the game. It's more the mechanics and the stuff I'm doing that I'm enjoying. So I like the journey in it, no pun intended, more than the payoff. But the payoff in a campaign game, if it's bad, could be a bad thing. I got bored playing Descent 3.0. I thought the story and the writing in it sucked. It's bad. And so if I don't care about the characters or anything, then why do I care about the rest of this game? Again, the journey's not good. That means I'm not going to like it as much. Let's see, what else have we got? Seven Wonders? I mean, I suppose with shorter games, payoffs are okay. I suppose the time length's got to factor in, because Seven Wonders is more of a... That one feels more like a payoff game. You're playing some cards and you're hoping it will kick in later, but then saying that, you are making a lot of little decisions, and so those little decisions have importance. But that game's done and dusted in 30 minutes. Splendor, it's done and dusted in 30 minutes. So a short game that's about payoffs is fine, because you haven't invested so much time in it. I've mentioned a lot of games there where I don't like these payoffs, where if it goes wrong, you're there for ages. Food Chain Magnate, Barrage, Magnifico and stuff like that. These are mostly 2.5 to 3 hour or not longer games. So you have to invest a lot more time there, and it kind of sort of feels like, oh, okay, that's the, that, I think, for longer games, the payoff becomes more unimportant to me, because I want the journey to be good. I don't particularly like long journeys. I like to get from A to B as quick as possible, and if I am going to be on a long journey, I need to do as much as I can to keep myself from getting bored, falling asleep, or being frustrated with the fact that I'm stuck in a car, or stuck on the train or something, or stuck on a plane. And so I have to do things to make the journey better. I mean, it's one reason it stops me going to the States, because the States, payoff may be good, maybe not, but then I've got to sit on that plane for what, 7, 8, 9 hours on that plane, condensed like a sardine in a tin. The journey better be improved if I'm going to sit on that plane and not go insane. And then if I've got to say, right, okay, let's sit on this plane, journey's going to be good, and then you hear the crying child on the other side of the aisle, and it's like, and already my journey is ruined. That sort of thing certainly makes more of a thing in longer length games. But curious to know your thoughts. I thought this was an interesting topic, and if he gets wind that I've used this on the podcast, then I guess I owe him a stout. That's easy. I mean, it means I can share in a stout as well, and alcohol is always fun, but in moderation. But the topic just sort of felt a bit interesting, because I get his stance on the games, but I was curious as to where my stance was on the games, and for me, I think I fit in the opposite category. I like the more homogenous style games. The journey to me is more important than the destination in board gaming, and so, shorter games are good for that, but even longer games where you do a lot of little bits during a game and then the payoff happens, great. Sidereal Confluence, the big negotiation game, that is so much more about the journey than the payoff, really. And, I get to the end and, I didn't quite win, but yeah, I had good fun 2 to 3 hours of solid negotiation with other players. That was the fun bit. Hegemony, perfect example. I mean, the payoff, yeah, did you win points-wise? Is it really as important as all the stories and all the stuff that happens during a game with the voting and the build and the companies and all the 4 factions going against each other? Surely that's more interesting than the payoff of did you win with victory points? I'd be curious to know your thoughts, but that's the way I see it. So, yeah. Right, oh yes, under an hour. I'm going to wrap it up there because I need to sort out my chili downstairs, which is been slow cooking for the last couple of hours. So hopefully that's going to be delicious. I love chili. I love curries more, but I love chili. Chili is probably the second favorite meal I can have. You make a good chili with some dark chocolate, and make it nice and spicy. A bit of beef stock. Oh yeah. You can, and slow cook it. Not even put it in a slow cooker. Just put it in the pan and leave it there for a good 3 hours on low. Oh, it creates such a nice meal. Oh, that reminds me, I've got to do some rice. All right, guess I'm not eating for another 3/4 of an hour or so, maybe another hour. But and I've got to edit this, so I'm going to put the rice on first. And why am I talking about my cooking regime at the end of an episode? Anyway, that's it for me. I'll see you on the next Broken Meeple episode, and of course, the next episode in a couple of weeks will be based on probably previewing the UK Games Expo. If not this episode, then the one after it. Definitely there's going to be one in May that is previewing the Games Expo. So, look forward to that. But of course, check out that top 10 nature games list. Let's try and get some more views on that. But mainly, let me know your thoughts also about the whole merchandise thing. And help me push this channel to 20,000 subscribers. We need more honest reviewers on the interweb, and I'm not the only one out there. There are some great ones out there you should also check out, but I'm trying to do honest reviews here, and if it's something that you want, then we got to keep the channel going and get the word out. So 20,000 subscribers, here we come. So take care, and remember, as always, definitely, no matter how much of a rant I've gone on with some of the stuff here today, it's still, at the end of the day, only a game. So bye for now, and take care.